So the movie Complete Unknown just showed up on Hulu, starring Timothée Chalamet as a young Bob Dylan. And I got to say, I'm not really interested in this film, but I watched it because, hey, I've been watching all the other Oscar nomination films, and I figured I really need to give my 2 cents on this one. Last week, I watched like Emilia Perez, Wicked, I can't even remember what else I've watched out there. Anora, that's it, shoot, the winner. Can't believe I forgot it. It's a pretty good film, by the way. Anyway, you can watch my reviews on that. So here's my statement about A Complete Unknown. I felt like this is another music biopic movie, and by now we're really sick of these. We're just kind of drowning in these things now. And I feel like Hollywood just sort of goes like, okay, who haven't we done a movie on now? I mean, we had really good ones like Ray and Walk the Line. And then we've had bad ones like Bohemian Rhapsody, for example. I always seem to think of that one whenever I think of a really bad music biopic, because these films are pretty formulaic. It usually starts out with the character being somehow gifted in music, and just gifted. There's no real explanation. They're just gifted. They just have this ability. And to me, I kind of want to see them a bit, build their talent. They never spend the time building their talent. They're just they just have it. I don't really like that trope that seems to show up in these music biopics. So we see them kind of start out as a nobody, and then they get a record deal or something, and then they rise to fame. And then while they're in fame, they get involved with all kinds of drugs and sex and all this kind of thing that starts to take them down. One of the things I think I liked about the movie Ray, and I do like the movie Ray, was that it didn't hold back in showing that Ray was not a good person. It showed that he got involved with drugs, he cheated on his wife, and he was... And, they show the consequences of all that and stuff like that. But they also show that during the process, he's able to stand up against racism during his time and make a very positive change. And I think that's kind of awesome when a film can do that. And the same thing can be said about Walk the Line, where it's like, they show, Johnny Cash with his serious problems. He can't keep it together with his wife and family, and life on the road is sort of deconstructing him. And I feel like that's sort of something that you see in these music biopics, on how like this whole music business will suck the soul out of you is apparently the theme of these things, if there is such one. It's almost like they should really just do a connected universe film, like Marvel does this. So we see one with Ray, and here's the thing. Johnny Cash is actually in this film. There's like a Johnny Cash being represented in this film, but I really need to talk about this film overall. Okay, so A Complete Unknown. Here's the thing about Bob Dylan. I don't really know much about him, and I was talking to somebody who's about 20 years younger than me, and he never really heard of Bob Dylan. And I think that's fine, because here's the thing. I grew up in the 80s, so I was into big rock stars like Michael Jackson, Madonna, Lionel Richie, people like that. But when it came to Bob Dylan, I knew that he existed. Like back in the 60s, he had some popular hits. And I think we always look at him as sort of a folk rock hero. That is, he did his songs in the particular acoustic guitar style. And he's known for songs like, The Times They Are Changin', which is a beautifully haunting tune, and this film has a scene where Timothée Chalamet is singing it. And I don't know if it's Timothée Chalamet's actual voice or whatever, I don't know. I don't know if they dubbed it in, I don't know if he took singing lessons and guitar lessons or whatever. I don't know, I think he got an Oscar nomination, or I don't know if he won for his performance in this. He does a pretty good job as Bob Dylan, because Bob Dylan is one of those voices that you can really easily imitate if you're a stand-up comedian. And yeah, people do that, and he doesn't really go out of his way to do that kind of thing. It's kind of like when you try and imitate John F. Kennedy and you really make it not work. Or William Shatner, you just do this. you kind of overly exaggerate those sort of things. I didn't really feel like they tried to overly exaggerate Bob Dylan in this story at all, which is what I liked about this film. I kind of felt like this doesn't feel like a music biopic. What it really feels like is just like, I'm just following Bob Dylan around for a few years. So now they show the scenes where he makes it, and he makes it kind of weird. They actually show him at the beginning of this film trying to visit Woody Guthrie in the hospital. Apparently that's his hero. Woody Guthrie has some disease where he can't really speak, but Bob Dylan decides to play a song for him. And from there, he finds some clubs in New York to do open mic night and stuff like that, gets a record deal. And but he's just doing covers of things. And that's under his contract. He doesn't really like doing that work. And I think there's a scene where somebody asks him, "Who are you?" And he says something like, "I'm whatever the heck I don't want. I'm whatever they don't want them. They." What is the line on this? It's like, anyway, he says like, "I'm whatever they want me to be. I don't want to be that." He doesn't say it just like that, but he says that a lot better than I'm saying it. I can't remember the line verbatim. Sorry. It's a good line, okay? I think it's well done, and I think this is what they're trying to show who Bob Dylan was. Because my memories of Bob Dylan are very faint. I believe he's actually in the We Are the World thing at the very end, where he goes like, "There's a choice we're making, it's saving our own lives." I think that's him at the end, and I'm going like, yeah, it's Bob Dylan. So I think that's how I first heard that Bob Dylan pretty much freaking exists. Because I don't think Bob Dylan ever really was one of those types of musicians that deliberately sought fame for himself. I think there's scenes where people are starting to recognize him, and he doesn't really like it. Because he can't go out in public anymore and stuff like that. And he doesn't really want to do the fame. I think they really seem to focus that Bob Dylan wanted to make music for the sake of making music. And that's fine. And they also show him as kind of like being a guy that's just sort of like lounging around the house all day and making music. And it does show him having a relationship that doesn't really work out. But it doesn't really work out because, they show he has a girlfriend. I think his name is Sylvie, but Sylvie keeps seeing him with Joan Baez, and I think she thinks that there's something going on between them, but the film doesn't really show that. So it's not like Bob Dylan in this movie is having affairs and stuff like that. I don't really think there's a lot of drugs going on in this film. I was surprised this film is R-rated. I'm just going to bring this up now, but it's rated R for language. It's very rare that I watch a film that's rated R for language. Normally if they just go, oh, it's an R rating, we'll just show everything we can, and let's just put a bunch of sex and violence on the screen because. Normally if it's just for language, it's like, just cut out the swear words and make it PG-13 and make it accessible to a lot of audiences. Thing is, would young audiences want to see a film about Bob Dylan? Probably not. To them, he's a complete unknown. And I found out that was actually a line from his song Like a Rolling Stone, which is a song that I do know very well. It's one of his more famous ones. I actually had to read the Wikipedia summary as far as like finding out like, okay, what is really happening in this film? We're just seeing Bob Dylan here. Well, apparently he goes to this folk music festival and he uses an electric guitar. And I think this was a big sign that he shouldn't have done that. I get the feeling like that maybe it was showing that he wasn't really true to his roots. And he gets like booed at this thing, and there's scenes where they show people saying like, turn down the bleeping music and stuff like that, constantly. And I was kind of like wondering like, were they just really insisting that they do it? Oh gosh, how embarrassing. So, but anyway, and then at the end I think Johnny Cash shows up and gives him like this guitar, so Bob Dylan can just go on stage and play his guitar like he normally would. And I guess that's what we're supposed to learn. Is that the takeaway? That he needs to stick to his roots? And then at the end they say like, yeah, he once received a Pulitzer Prize for literature, and he's the only songwriter to ever do so, but he didn't show up to receive the award. Is it trying to say that Bob Dylan is humble, or is he trying to say that he's just kind of like, he's just this guy? I'm not really certain, honestly. Although now I want to hear more Bob Dylan, so I guess this music pick is doing its job. Anyway, I think it's worth seeing.